Welcome back to the Liberated Man podcast. Here we are, episode 2, and I'm standing here in my home, and today I get to talk to you about something a little bit different than yesterday's conversation about why porn was good, but it leads into today's, which is kind of a strange thing. You see, I remember a while back, there's this guy that he just barely finished the program. Amazing guy, has radically transformed his life, and he just sent me a case study video. Like, he just sent me a video discussing what his journey was like, and it reminded me of what had happened. He'd been in this program for a couple of months, and I was working with him. I was so excited. He was the first guy that had ever signed up so that I could help him out. Other than that, I'd tested this on myself, and I had helped like one other little 12-year-old kid with some of the stuff associated with porn, and I knew it worked on the inside, but I hadn't been able to share it with other people. He was the first guy that said, teach me, help me out. I've tried all kinds of stuff, and I need help. And so I got on the phone with him, and I remember like I was basically punching him in the face with my words on the phone, trying to help him understand that his actions and his decisions about using pornography were hurting his kids in ways that he didn't see. He didn't have any leverage at that point. He didn't see what problems it was causing. But shortly after I said those things, he started seeing things in his kids that started to freak him out, and that's why he jumped on. He was like, okay. This is something I had learned from my years training in some of the healing arts. And so he jumps on, and he's the kind of guy that is absolutely amazing. I love him to death. He's just, you tell him to do something and he just goes and does it. He'll just stick his head down and he'll go and do the work. And so he did. That was how he approached the whole thing. I tell him to do something, he went and did it. But then about 8 weeks in, he's like back looking at porn again. I get on the phone that week, I'm like, what happened? And he tells me that he's been looking at porn all night long, and that he's back into it again. Not like in it, just kind of like on the fringes, looking at Google images and looking at swimsuits or looking at body painting and stuff like that. But like he's in it all night long, or looking at Periscope or some of these other places that people find porn. And I ask him, I'm like, what's going on? So I go back and I start questioning myself. I'm like, look, this was a process that came by pure inspiration. Like, I didn't come up with this, or I never would have been free. It wasn't my own brain coming up with this. This was like a combination of a lot of things that I'd heard other mentors teach me, and then a lot of inspiration and a lot of powerful experience that taught me what to do. So here I am, and I'm having this experience with this fellow that I'm like, crap, maybe it doesn't work. So I started asking him about going through this process that I call the burn process. And his response is, yeah, I went through it and I did this and I did that, and it became very apparent to me that he hadn't done it thoroughly. That he had kind of put his head down, done the bare minimum of what he needed to do, and then on the other end of it, felt fine and decided to move on. He decided to move on, and he was fine until all of a sudden life got more complicated again, and he started having stress in some of the other things in his life. Because he's a realtor, there's like mortgages and there's loans and there's other stuff going on. So all of a sudden life starts to build up on him, and at that point we discover how good his work on his foundation had been. And it wasn't good enough. And so immediately he went back in. And because that was his coping mechanism. That's why porn was good. It enabled him to like distract himself from his problems and get out of them for some period of time. So I talked to him about this, and then I just challenged him. I said, look, we got to go back. We got to go back to this process. You didn't do this process well enough, so all the stuff we built afterwards is on a shaky foundation. We have to go back and rebuild. So we go back and we rebuild. We go back and I make him do this process, and I held him to it for a couple of weeks, trying to be responsible as someone who was coaching him through this process, because I can't do the work for him. But I'm sure as heck not going to lead him further until he's done the work. He goes through that process, and then when I get on the phone with him next, his entire demeanor is changed. His entire countenance has changed. Like who he is, how he talks, the energy with which he shows up on the call, very different. And he's had some powerful experiences going through it that helped him completely jettison all of the feelings of desire for porn. Helped him see the action for what it was. Helped him like have the calm to be able to like feel a temptation or a desire to go look there and have a conversation inside his head and be like, well, that's dumb. Why would I ever do that? This is the stupidest thing I could ever do. Do you know how much work it took for me to get to this point? I don't want to do that again. All of a sudden he was in a different place, and the only thing that changed was that he put his heart and soul into the work. That for me hits home. Because I can't tell you how many times I've gone to coaching programs, how many times I've gone to training programs, how many times I've even gone to church. And I'm there doing my due diligence, doing my bare minimum, but my heart and soul is not in the work. Now, Confucius, he said, wherever you go, go with all your heart. I don't do that often. I'm still training myself to be 100% there, where it is that I need to be. And so here I sit with a guy who, when he finally was able to put his heart and soul into the work of doing the little assignments that I gave him, came out transformed on the other side. Now consider this. This happens a lot. There are tons of transformative things that you've heard. You've probably been to tons of seminars. You've probably been to tons of programs. And if you leave one piece of you behind and the other part changes, all you do is rip yourself in half. You can't heal that way. You can't transform that way. What you do is put more stress upon yourself till eventually the rubber band gets so tight that you either snap back to the position you were in or you break. And that's what we do. That's what you and I do. That's what I've done a ton of times in church, in seminars, in training programs, in recovery programs, like wherever I go. I don't put my heart and soul into it. And so what happens is that I stress myself out for a while, just like stretching a rubber band, and then all of a sudden it gets to be too much, and then poof, I either snap back into the place that I was, or I just break and snap completely wide open and things don't work anymore. Because some part of me was holding on to the past. Some part of me didn't give myself to the process. Now consider this. When you give yourself to the process, when I give myself to the process, heart and soul, processes that I feel called to, transformation is inevitable. But if I don't do it all the way, stress, rebound, and breakage is inevitable. Consider that. Have you look at your life? Where in your body, where in the way that you treat your body, are you not all the way committed to it? Fitness, are you on a diet plan, but secretly on the inside going like, this stupid, this stinks, this whatever. You're not fully committed to it. Are you on like an exercise program that you're not fully committed to? Am I? Like when I sit there, how many times I walk by a bag of chips and just inhale half of it and go, oh, dang, I just ate half a bag of chips. Some part of me is not fully committed. I'm not saying you should beat yourself up about that, but take it as evidence that you're not all the way there. And when you're not all the way committed, the transformation can't happen because a piece of you is stuck in the back. And all you're doing then is creating stress in your life. So when you find places where you're not committed, the goal is to go back and unhook yourself from the past so that you can move forward toward the future. When a rubber band, you stretch your rubber band, if you let go of the backhand, it shoots really far. But if you let go of the front hand, it just snaps onto your thumb and hurts. That's kind of what happens. Now consider that in church. Are you all the way 100% committed? Now I go to the Mormon church, been there my whole life. I go show up in church. Am I 100% committed to being there in the moment where they pass the bread and water? They call it the sacrament. Catholics call it communion. Basically, it's like a meditation experience where you get to meditate on, we meditate on Jesus Christ, but other people might meditate on God or other scriptures or anything like that. Am I 100% committed to that? Or am I just like, okay, let's get on with this? Well, then no transformation can happen because I'm not giving my heart and soul to the process. Same with my family. If I'm there in body, but my brain is elsewhere, no transformation in my family relationship can happen. I complain about my kids and how they're disrespectful and how they don't talk to me. If I want them to transform, guess what I have to do? It's my fault. I'm the one that has to give my heart and soul to the process so transformation can happen. Even if it just happens in me, I'm a piece of that relationship, which means the whole thing changes when I change. But not if I'm holding into the past. Not if I've got one peg in the back and hanging on. Same goes in business. Every time I'm trying to change something. Same goes if I have hobbies or things that I desire in my life, things that I care about, purposes that I'm involved in. All of this depends upon my capacity to give my heart and my soul to the process. Without heart and soul, you end up causing yourself pain. With heart and soul, transformation is inevitable. So consider this today. Where in your life are you not giving your heart and soul to pieces, to things? Things that you say you want. And how could you possibly give a little bit more so that you can see the transformation? that you really desire. And if you're a person that's seeking to be free of porn addiction or other addictions or just compulsive behaviors and habits, this is a really good question to ask yourself. Where are you holding back? Where are you holding back? And if you're somebody who really wants to be free, come find us. Come find me at LIBERATEDMAN.com. I can help you. Just with processes I've discovered along the way, I'm just a guy like anybody else. And when I snap my fingers and hurt myself with the rubber band, the only difference is that I've discovered that that's what I did. And I can move forward differently because I'm no longer shaming myself about it. I'm learning from it.